Good morning, people of God. Welcome to Holy Family Catholic Church here in Austin, Texas, where today we're celebrating the 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time. How many Sundays are there in Ordinary Time? An easy number to remember, 33 Sundays in Ordinary Time, which means that we're now over halfway through Ordinary Time. Ordinary Time does not mean that these Sundays are not extraordinary. It simply means that these Sundays are ordered. So we referred to last Sunday as the 17th Sunday in Ordinary Time. This is the 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Can you guess what next Sunday will be? You guessed it. The 19th Sunday in Ordinary Time. We're going to keep counting until we get to 33, and that'll almost be the end of the church year. After that, there's only one Sunday left in the church year, which will be the Solemnity of Christ, the King of the Universe, and then we start a new church year. We don't start the church year on January the 1st. When do we start the church year? The church year starts with the first Sunday of Advent, which is that season of 4 Sundays leading up till Christmas. So the church has a different beginning of the year than the civil calendar that we celebrate. So we're over halfway through Ordinary Time. We're also marking this transition from July to, is it really true that we're now in the month of August? Did you know that July and August have this interesting history? Because after August, all of the months are named after numbers. Follow me now. September was the 7th month of the year. September. October was the 8th month of the year. October. November was the 9th month of the year. Have you thought about this before? December was the 10th month of the year. If you speak Spanish, for instance, the numbers for those words, siete, ocho, nueve, diez, we hear them in September, October, November, and December. So the question becomes, why are September, October, November, and December no longer the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th months of the year, but instead are the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th months of the year? And that's because we added 2 months to the calendar, one in honor of Julius Caesar. What do we call that month? July. One in honor of Caesar Augustus. What do we call that month? August. So they got the 2 summer months that bumped the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th months back by 2 months. A fascinating history, but we now find ourselves then in the month of Caesar Augustus. Have you heard that name before? Who was Caesar Augustus? He was the emperor who was living at the time that Jesus was born. So in the Gospels, when it speaks of Jesus' birth, and the Gospel writers are trying to put Jesus in the context of history, they say, when Augustus was emperor, when so-and-so was the governor, when so-and-so was the king of this or that territory, they try to situate him in the context of those who were reigning at the time. And who was the emperor? When Jesus was born in the backwoods of the Roman Empire, the emperor was Augustus. That's this month of August. Shall we take a look at today's scriptures before we jump into Mass today? Where does the first reading come from today? The first reading today comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. What are you guessing, Old Testament or New Testament? Old Testament is correct. Or, as we prefer to call it, the Hebrew Scriptures. Because when we call it the Old Testament, for our Jewish siblings who esteem those Hebrew Scriptures, it can sound a bit offensive. So instead of talking about Old and New, sometimes we refer to them as the Hebrew Scriptures, which is where Ecclesiastes comes from, and the Christian Scriptures, the New Testament, right? So from the Hebrew Scriptures, we have a reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is fascinating because he talks about vanities, vanity of vanities. He talks about the things in this world which can be a little disappointing. Sometimes you could have all of the money in the world and still not be the happiest person on earth. Think about that for a moment. Money, says the author of the book of Ecclesiastes, is an illusion. The happiness that accompanies money is an illusion. And so he tries to address questions like the perceived meaninglessness of life. When we look at so many things in life, we try to understand it. How do these things make sense? The presence of evil in the world, some of the things that human beings say and do. Think back during the past few weeks, has anyone said or done anything that leaves you just scratching your head and wondering what universe do they live in? Koheleth, the author of the book of Ecclesiastes, tried to make sense of all this and came to the conclusion that we could all view life as meaningless and as a vanity of vanities, except that we believe that God is somehow in control. The world can be spinning out of order, full with chaos, could be a total mess, but we believe at the end of the day, God is in control. Koheleth and the book of Ecclesiastes is famous for that Peter, Paul, and Mary song. Think back to the 1970s. For everything, what is there? There is a season, turn. That whole message came to Peter, Paul, and Mary from where? The book of Ecclesiastes. For everything, there is a season. There's a time for planting and a time for harvest. There's a time for crying and there's a time for joy. So Ecclesiastes is the book of the Bible where we find that very beautiful poem. The first reading, we know that the first reading often has a bridge to the gospel. So what happens in the church is that the bishops start by choosing the gospel of the day based on the gospel that we're studying. Which gospel are we studying this year? This is the year of the gospel of Luke. And so we're going through the gospel of Luke, and every Sunday then, the bishops come to a part of the story of the gospel of Luke, and they try to find a first reading that goes with that. So let's see if we can build the bridge here. In today's gospel, we're going to find the story of a rich man who decided, I'm so wealthy, instead of sharing what I have with the poor, I'm just going to build silos to continue storing up more and more grain for myself. What was he doing? Instead of sharing, he was hoarding to himself. And what did God say when God looked at that situation in today's gospel? God says, God said to him in the third last line of today's gospel, you fool. Do we see that in today's gospel? Page 2 of the Mass program, third last line, you fool. This night your life will be demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, to whom will they belong? All these silos of grain that you didn't share with those in need, to whom will they belong? When you're gone. So today's scriptures certainly make us reflect on the end of our lives. As Catholics, we have that great prayer, the Hail Mary. Have you ever prayed the Hail Mary before? Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. That prayer speaks to the two most important moments in our lives. What are the two most important moments in our lives? Pray for us sinners when? Now. And when? At the hour of our death. That at the hour of our death we might have the wisdom to turn toward God. Isn't it true that any time we sin is like turning our back on God and or on others, our ancient ancestors said. Sinning is like turning our back on God, so to reconcile ourselves with God and others, we need to turn around again. Pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. At the hour of our death, we might be turned toward God. But if I should have pressed yes. To stop that recording, or do we keep going? I'm gonna stop it.
Yeah, I would.